All right, so welcome to class, guys. My name is Exio. I'm a speed and power instructor in training, and today I have the pleasure of presenting you a class, and we'll get started with bike fit. So first of all, we want to make our way to the back of the saddle. We want to make sure that the fore and aft position of the saddle is adjusted to our 0 mark. This is our standard, and if for some reason we needed to adjust from there, it'd only be a slight modification from the 0 mark. And we do the same thing with the fore and aft position of the handlebars, left to loosen and right to tighten. We want to set them at 0 and right to tighten them back up. Making our way to the back of the saddle again, we want to find the top part of our hip. If we stick out our hand from the top part of our hip, it should be in line with the seat height. If you need to make an adjustment, you're going to take this blue fitlock lever, pull it upwards, make an adjustment accordingly, and once you've found the ideal height, this can clip back in. If you press with 2 fingers, just make sure that it pops so it's not moving during your ride. We do the same thing with our handlebar height. We want to make sure that it's in line with our seat, if not slightly raised. The blue fitlock lever, pull up, adjust accordingly, make sure you have a hand underneath the handlebar so they don't drop. And once you've found the ideal height, just make sure you pop it back in. Once we've done that, we want to we want to go ahead and we want to mount on our bike. We want to see how that feels. If it's slightly uncomfortable or we need to make any last minute adjustments to our bike fit, I ask that you press down on this blue resistance dial to stop your legs and make any other changes to bike fit off of the bike. So coming over here, we have our profile. Our blue zone is our active recovery zone, and our green zone is our endurance zone. These are all-day paces. We're not working hard, we're simply recovering. As soon as we get to our yellow zone is our tempo zone. We can still sustain a conversation with our neighbor. We can only be here for about 3 hours without needing to stop. Next, we have our threshold, which is our orange zone, and the orange zone is our sweet spot. So especially during today's profile, we'll start being uncomfortably comfortable in the orange zone. This orange zone is directly related to our FTP metric, and I'll talk about that approaching this test more later. Next, we have our red zone, which is our VO2 max zone, and our burgundy zone, which is our anaerobic capacity zone. And we're working hard to very hard in effort. We should be breathless. And as soon as we get to purple, so you see purple there at the very end like a finisher, purple is an unsustainable effort. We can only hold purple for about 30 seconds before we need recovery, and we want to make sure that for the little bit of time that we're in purple, that we're working our hardest. We're trying to empty the tank. You can stop it there. All right. So we'll start off with a little bit of a warm-up. We'll start by spinning up the legs, and we'll start by explaining the console that we have on our bike. At first, we press the stages button. We'll see our console is going to illuminate, and then we have a USB option at the top of our console. If you have a USB thumb drive, you can put it here at the top, and it'll actually record your workout. So it's kind of cool, but it's not necessary. Next, we see warm-up along the top, and on the left-hand side, we see some instantaneous values. The first one is our watts. If we increase resistance, we'll see our wattage go up, because watts corresponds to the amount of force we're exerting on the pedal stroke. Next, we have our RPM, revolutions of the pedal stroke per minute. And below that, we have our road speed. If we were to take this bike outside on a flat road and account for wind resistance, this would be the speed that we would be traveling at. After that, we have our kilocalories. This is a measure of how many calories we would burn in 1 hour, assuming we're maintaining this speed and this amount of resistance on the wheel. At the bottom, we have time and we have distance. If we press the stages button one more time, we'll see that the average numbers for that interval begin to populate on the right-hand side. This will be especially important for our burgundy block here. This is our FTP test. The FTP test is used, I think it's about 4 minutes in this profile, and it's used to obtain a baseline metric for us to define how hard we're working for the rest of the class. At the beginning of this effort, we'll press the stages button to restart our interval, And at the very end, we'll press stages again so that we have an average wattage for the amount of work that we did for that amount of time. The rest of our workout is dependent on that metric, so we want to make sure that while we're doing our FTP, we're working as hard as possible. If you don't work for the rest of the class, it's okay. But I ask that you work very hard during your FTP, because it's what matters the most. So we're here for 30 seconds in blue zone before we start doing some warm-ups. So enjoy the rest of the song, and then we'll get started very soon. Keep recording. Right now we're in our green zone. We're in green zone for about 20 seconds, our endurance zone, before we find our first yellow effort. Little by little, we'll start warming up, like a thermometer. The higher we go up the color scheme, the warmer our body gets. We're going in yellow at 3, 2, and 1. We're here for only 30 seconds. Everybody try to get yellow across the board. Whether you're increasing your leg speed or increasing the amount of resistance you have on the dial. We're here for about 18 seconds. We're simply warming up. We're not breathless quite yet. In 5, we go back down to green. Resistance or reduce light speed. We're only about 25 seconds before we go back up. After our yellow effort, instead of going to green, we're going to our first threshold level. We're here for about 30 seconds in orange. In 5, we get ready for our tempo zone for about 35 seconds. Everybody working 85% of their best. We're only about 20 seconds before we hit it back up. 15. Look at your watts. Depending on what zone you're in, you're going to have a certain range of watts. Make sure that every time you're in green, you have the same range. Every time you're in yellow, you have the same range. Thirdly, we're in orange. 100% of your best for the next 50 seconds. Whether you increase leg speed, increase resistance on the wheel, or you're doing both. After this, we have a short recovery before we start building up for our FTP test. 30 seconds longer. 15 seconds, kids. Everybody to orange. Anybody can do anything for 10 seconds. When you get back down, ease off resistance, slow down the leg speed. So the next track, we're going to be building to our FTP block. We have our first burgundy zone. The purpose of this burgundy zone is to find the effort that we'll be working at, or very similar to it during our FTP test. We're finding it so that we know how much resistance we should have during this test. We're in orange for about 30 seconds before we drop down to tempo zone. Spinning the legs. You should be starting to get a little breathy, but not breathless. seconds. 10 seconds, and you don't get a recovery quite yet. We're working until the very end of this song. You get a slight recovery right before our FTP test. 85% of your best for the next 35 seconds. In the next 20 seconds, we'll go to our first red zone. Our red zone is our VO2 max zone. We're not working very hard, but we're working hard. This is starting to get breathless in 3, 2, and 1. Everybody in red, whether you're increasing resistance or increasing the speed of your legs, we're doing both. For the next 20, before we find burgundy for the next 30. Only 5 seconds left. Prepare yourself mentally. We're in burgundy for 30. 135. 135% of your best effort. Only 20 seconds left. This is what it feels like. This is what our FTP test feels like. If not, our FTP test will be slightly harder because it's for a longer period of time. In 5, 3, 2, and 1, reduce. You can keep recording until the end of the FTP block. So until the end of that very big burgundy chunk. We're recovering for the next 25 seconds. That resistance that you had on the wheel at our previous burgundy effort, you will max that as well as your leg speed. If not, slightly increasing both. I want everybody to give me a thumbs up. We're all going to press the stages button in 3, 2, and 1. Press the button. We're working our hardest for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. This is our baseline metric for the rest of the ride. Make it count. 3 minutes, 30 seconds of your best effort. Everybody should be in burgundy zone. Burgundy or purple is acceptable. Your mind will get tired before your body does. You have to keep telling yourself yes. The body will play tricks on you. You only have about 2 minutes and 45 seconds left of this type of effort. Keep it going. The music may be slowing down, but we're not. Look at those watts. Try your best to keep those watts constant. Make sure they aren't very variable. We're here for about 2 more minutes and 20 seconds. We're going right to the end of the song, kids. Anybody can do anything for 2 minutes. But you're not more than halfway yet. Keep telling yourself you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. 1 minute, 45 seconds left. The most meaningful part of your workout is what you're doing right now. You're more than halfway. Let's push it a little bit longer. 130. Consistency is key. break speed. Constant resistance on that dial. Your body will be tempted to slow down. Match the same effort that you were doing at the beginning, if not slightly more, for this last minute. You have about 50 seconds. Good colors across the board. You have about 40 seconds. Very soon, I will cue you in to press the stage button, but not right now. Just be ready. In about 25 seconds, you press that button. In 15, everybody give me a thumbs up. In 5, in 4, 3, 2, and 1. Press that stages button. You can keep recording or start another recording if you ended it. On the screen here, we see our FTP result. This is your baseline metric for the remainder of the ride. Once you press the stages button, you might see that the number on your console is a little bit more than the number you see up here. The reason for that is because under normal conditions, an FTP test is an hour-long test. In order to accommodate such thing in our profile, we decrease the time of our FTP test. So our actual average gets multiplied by a decimal factor, which is why it's less on the screen here. Now for the rest of the workout, this percentage that we see on our bike gauge, this tells us the percentage of our FTP that we're working. Now these zones become more meaningful. Somebody's orange zone might not be the same as your orange zone. Everybody's workout is now personalized because of this metric. In about 30 seconds, we're going to start some elevations. Starting building off in yellow, we're going to threshold afterwards, and then we're going into our red zone, our VO2 max zone. Take the next 15 seconds to recover, and then we're in red for about 40 more. We're in our red zone, 110% of your baseline metrics. Only for about 35 seconds before we get into some elevations. Just pushing it a little bit, starting off strong. Seconds longer. Everybody giving me 110% of their best. 10 seconds longer. In 5. So you can keep recording. I'm going to do one of these efforts, and then we're going to skip to the gift track. I want to do one of these blocks. Yellow, orange to red. The way these elevations are structured, we're not recovering at all. The hardest part is going from our red zone down to our yellow. We don't want to drop down to green. We want to make that transition as smooth as possible. In between each effort, we have 1 minute in our tempo zone. We have 20 seconds left here before we find our threshold zone, 100% of our FTP for the next 2 minutes. key baseline metric. Everybody should be feeling tired. Everybody should be feeling breathless. After we do our first block, the second and the third block will be challenging. We're here for about 1 minute 20 before we jump into our red zone for 1 minute. Consistency. We have 3 opportunities to get this right. Take every chance. 50 seconds. Everybody in orange. At the end of every effort, our red zone grows by 30 seconds. You will have a 30-second extended effort to give it all you have. First red zone is only a minute. Next, we jump to 1 minute 30. Afterwards, 1 minute, 30 seconds. 15 seconds before we jump. Let the music carry you through. In 3, 2, and 1. Everybody is red for 1 minute. Red or burgundy is acceptable. 50 seconds. Right to the end of the song. Carrying it to the next. Don't stop. Keep going. 35 seconds. 25 seconds. Keep pushing it. This is what it feels like to upgrade your fitness. 15 seconds. In 10. Make sure this transition is smooth. From red to yellow. Reduce resistance. We're in yellow zone. We're not recovering yet. You can stop the recording. Alright, we've reached our gift track. The next 3 minutes and 15 seconds are dedicated to you guys. Whether you're working through the gift track, whether you're taking a little bit of time to cool down, reduce leg speed, maybe doing some stretches off the bike. If you do need water, we ask that you please put on your mask, and we have our water bottle fill station there. And before I turn off the lights and let you guys ride for the next 2 minutes, 45 seconds, I want to leave you with an intention. It's okay to grow slowly, but what's not okay is to stand still. Every time we come to one of these classes, we work our hardest and we see gradual improvement over time. Everybody can do it. Every time you come into these classes, your FTP test increases. The amount of watts that you can sustain over a long period of time, it increases. It might be a slow growth, but it's growth nonetheless. It's okay to grow slowly, but it's not okay to stand still. Ride your bike for the next 2 minutes. Okay, you can stop it. We're starting our next set of intervals after the gift track. We've had a long recovery. We should be ready to work. We want to have enough resistance on this wheel, on this resistance dial, such that we're in the yellow zone. We're here for about 40 seconds before we jump into burgundy. We have about 6 of these efforts. Just like before, the transition from burgundy into our temporal zone is going to be difficult, especially after we've done enough efforts. We will get tired. Try your best to make sure you have a smooth transition every time. We're here for 15. Assuming you have enough resistance on that dial, if we take our sprint shift lever to the middle, it should be enough to get us into burgundy zone. In 3, 2, and 1, everybody in burgundy. 135% of your best for the next 20 seconds. Whether you're going fast or you slowly up the speed and style with as much resistance as you can. In 5, in 3, we're going back down, sprint shift lever to the left. Smooth transition every single time. We're not recovering quite yet. We don't recover until the end of these 6 blocks. We're here for 40 before we jump in again. Take 30 seconds to prepare yourself mentally, but we're not recovering. We're off in 20 seconds. Increase your wattage, even if it's just by 1, compared to the last effort. With 135% of your best for the next 25 seconds. Sprint shift levers to the middle. You only have 15 seconds longer. You get to try again about 4 more times to ensure that you have a smooth transition. In 3, in 2, in 1, sprint shift to the left. Keep pedaling. We're here for 50 seconds. Before we go again. In about 30 seconds, you get to try again. After this, we're halfway through, and we get a copy and paste of the first half into the second half. We should all know where we're going in 10, in 5, sprint shift lever to the left, to the middle, sorry, for 30 seconds, 135% of your best. Everybody gets to zone. Everybody tries their hardest. Achieve a new milestone in your fitness. In 10 seconds, you go back down in the yellow. In 5, 3, 2, and 1, sprint shift lever to the left.
Yep.
We're going into purple zone for the next 10 seconds before we get 15 seconds of recovery. And we do the whole thing again for about 6 to 7 times. In 3, 2, and 1. Sprint shift lever to the left. Recover. Recover hard. We're going again in 5 seconds. Sprint shift lever to the right. We're here for only 15 seconds, working our hardest prepare yourself. In 5, we go again. Then we're halfway. Spin shift to the right, let's go. 15 seconds. Show me who you are, how much you can work. In 3, 2, and 1, reduce. We're off in 10. In 5, 3, 2, and 1. Bring shift to the right. Bring your heel for 10 seconds. Anyone can do anything for 5. Keep going. 3, 2, and 1. Back down. 10 seconds. You don't have much time. No water. We're going right back into it in 3, 2, and 1. Sprint shift to the right. Let's go. 10 seconds. In 5, 3, 2, and 1. Back down. Almost done. 2 more efforts. Going again in 5. Make these last 2 count. 3, 2, and 1. Sprint shift to the right. In 10 seconds. Round it off. 3, 2, and 1. Sprint shift to the left. This is your last recovery before the end of the song. We're going 5, last one. Make it count in 3, 2, and 1. Sprint shift to the right. Get out of your head. You can do it. Less than 10 seconds. To the end of the music. 3, 2, and 1. Reduce. Awesome job. Taking the hardest scratch for last. We work our best when we're the most tired. We're going to spin our legs for about 1 more minute until we get off the mic and cool down. We'll do some stretching. If you press the end button on your console, you'll see your results outputted for your ride. You're able to see your maximum watts, how many calories you burned, the distance you traveled, your max speed. For anybody that wants a challenge, you can take a picture of this console, and next time you come to class, try increasing those numbers ever so slightly. You may grow slowly, but we're not standing still. And that's the most important part. Spinning our legs until the next beat drop. We want to add enough resistance to our bike so we're not slippery. Sprint shift lever to the right. Stop your legs using the blue resistance dial. Press down on it. We're going to come up slowly. We'll stretch the back of our legs, our hamstrings. We want to make sure that we have a slight bend in both knees and that our legs are parallel. Once we're ready, we can come down, take our elbows to the handlebars and sit back into it. You should feel this in the back of the leading leg. Lift your legs carefully. Feel this in the back of our hammy of the leading leg. If you're wearing cycling shoes, we'll carefully unclip. Coming off the bike, we'll do a few stretches before we end the class. With a quad stretch, we're going to grab the back of our leg, and making sure our knees are in line, making sure one isn't off to the side. Squeezing our glutes. We want to activate more of an intense stretch.
take this leg in front, we'll do a figure 4. We can press down on our leg if we want a more intense stretch. And what we do to one side, we do for the other. Making sure our knees are in line. Figure 4 on the other side. Pressing down on this leg if we want a more intense stretch. I thank you for taking time to do this class with me. I thank the girls who recorded me during my little demo video. And I hope to see you guys back soon. Thank you.